All right, let's solve x squared plus 8x equals to 20 by completing the square. So what we're going to do, we want to make sure that the constant term is by itself on one side, and that we do have. Okay? And then we're going to take this binomial that's on the left-hand side, and we're going to create a perfect square trinomial. Okay? So remember, the instruction says that we want to rearrange our equation so it looks like we have our x squared plus bx on the left hand side equals to c, which is the constant term. So we want to fill in this missing part. So what we're going to do is take half of the middle term, half of the coefficient of x, which is half of 8, and then square it. So we have 4 squared, which is 16. So then what we do on the left hand side, we have to do on the right hand side. Because remember, for an equation to be balanced, what you do on one side, you have to do on the other. So now, on the left hand side, we have a trinomial that's a perfect square, and we're going to write it as a binomial squared. So we have x, look at the first term, what identical factors that would make this x squared is x. And then what about 16? We will say 4, and we're going to use the plus sign. Equals 2. Add 20 and 16, we have 36. Now, once we do that, we have this in the squared term, where to solve for x, we're going to use the square root property. So we're going to take the square root to both sides. And remember, the square root property states we're going to have two solutions. So on the left-hand side, we have x plus 4 equals to plus or minus, and then take the square root of 36, which is 6. Solving for x, we're going to subtract 4. So we have x is equal to -4 plus or minus 6. So let's write the two solutions out. We have x is equal to -4 plus 6, which gives us 2. We have x is equal to -4 minus 6, which gives us -10. So our two solutions, 2 and -10. Now let's do the next one. Next example. We have here x squared minus 10x minus 8 equals to 0. We want this constant term, which is the minus 8 here, by itself on one side. So what we're going to do is add 8 to both sides. So we have here x squared minus 10x. Let's leave a blank space here and put a box here. Equals to 8. And then we're going to make this binomial, the x squared minus 10x, into a perfect square trinomial. This is where the completing the square comes in. So we're going to take half of the coefficient of the middle term, take half of -10, and then square it. So we have the quantity of -5 squared, which gives us 25. So we have plus 25, and we're going to add that on the right hand side as well to the 8. Okay, so now what we have now is a perfect square trinomial, the x squared minus 10x plus 25. So then that gives us That gives us x minus 5 squared equals to, add 8 and 25, what would that give us? 33. And then let's solve for x. We're going to use the square root property. So we're going to take the square root to both sides. Left hand side, the exponent of 2 and the square root cancels out. We have x minus 5 is equal to plus or minus, and the square root of 33. 33 is a prime number, not prime number, but there are no factors. It's a composite number, but there are no factors where it's a perfect square. The only factors we have would be 3 and 33. So we're going to leave the 33 under the radical sign because it's not a perfect square. In solving for x, we're going to add 5 to both sides, and we have x is equal to 5 plus or minus the square root of 33. Whenever you bring a number over, especially as it relates to the plus or minus, you want to write the number in front of the plus minus symbol, not after or even after the radical. So we're finished.